Today we're talking about the story of Jeremie Cummins, a man from Galveston, Texas, who was leaving the hospital when he was mistaken by police officers for an escaped inmate. He told them he was an inmate. He was never told he was not free to leave. As he walked away, he heard the officers call over their radio. He heard them say that he was an escaped inmate, even though there was no proof that any inmate had escaped. Surveillance video then shows that he was followed after by police officers, who released a K-9 dog to attack him, all before they could even verify his identity. They then proceeded to keep him pinned to the ground for 20 minutes while they counted the inmates back at the facility. After that, the officers put him in the car and accidentally locked themselves out, resulting in Mr. Cummins having a seizure due to the extreme heat and stress of the encounter. The police then charged him with unlawful fleeing and booked him into the Galveston County Jail on a $60,000 bond. There he was put on suicide watch for 2 days without any clothing to wear. After he was released, this video came out. All criminal charges have since been dropped. This incident appears to be a clear case of racial profiling, excessive force, false arrest, and malicious prosecution. The fact that the police attacked Mr. Cummins without confirming his identity, whether there was even an escapee, even though he showed no signs of resisting arrest, is a terrifying violation of his civil rights. It's also incredible that he was charged with evading arrest, even though he was never placed under arrest, nor told he was not free to leave by any officer. He didn't run, didn't resist arrest. For the police to charge him with the crime after their excessive force seems like an obvious attempt to protect themselves once they realized the significance of what they had done. In this case, it's as though the officers were actively trying to do everything wrong. Where to start with this video? First, there's obvious racial profiling taking place. It's not hard to see that Mr. Cummins' race played into the officer's decision to harass and then use force upon him. Mr. Cummins, though, he was wearing hospital scrubs that presumably are given to admitted patients. He, instead, a black man, was accused of being an escaped inmate, even though there was not even a report of an escapee. This is a violation of his 14th Amendment right, protecting him from being targeted based on his race. The way he was treated by the officers can also be considered excessive force. It appears Mr. Cummins did not use or threaten to use force upon any officer. Then, even though he had stopped moving, was bear hugged and thrown to the ground, and was then repeatedly bitten by an unleashed canine who did not heal despite his obvious surrender. On top of that, they detained him for 2 days without any clothes, which is cruel treatment for an innocent man. Here in New York, excessive force is determined by whether an officer's use of force was excessive, beyond that what is necessary in order to make an arrest or conduct an investigation. And you prove an excessive force case through the use of what is called the reasonable police officer standard, which means the defendant's officer's conduct will be judged against what a reasonably prudent officer would use under the same or similar circumstances. So you have to ask yourself, if a reasonably prudent police officer were standing to the side and watched this unarmed man who didn't run get tackled and savagely and repeatedly attacked by a police officer, would they consider it excessive force? From where I'm sitting, they'd be crazy not to. And it also appears that the police officers recognize they messed up here and may have charged Mr. Cummins with a crime, hoping that he would become more concerned getting out of trouble than making trouble for the officers by suing. The fact remains, however, because they charged him with the crime, unlawful fleeing, and held him for 2 days, they made his case potentially worth more money, as he now has a viable false arrest claim and a malicious prosecution claim. Here in New York, in order to successfully prove a false arrest claim, you have to show that the defendant officers intended to confine you, that you were aware you were being confined, that you did not consent to being confined, and that the confinement was not privileged, meaning the police didn't have a legal justification or excuse to arrest you. The damages for false arrest are determined from the initial detention up until the time you see the judge generally. In order to successfully prove a malicious prosecution claim, you have to prove that the defendant officer commenced a criminal proceeding against you. The criminal proceeding was terminated in your favor, the arrest lacked probable cause, and the arrest was brought out of actual malice. The damages are determined from the time you see the judge to when the case is finished. As far as I can tell, this case meets those criteria for both the false arrest and excessive force claims. So with such a case as this, what would Mr. Cummins be looking at? The actual amount of money depends on a lot of different factors, including the strength of the evidence, the jurisdiction where the case is heard, the specific details of the incident, and Mr. Cummins' injuries. Here in New York, there have been several high-profile civil rights cases with publicized damages, including Eric Garner, the man who died after being placed in a police chokehold. The city agreed to pay $5.9 million to his family. As a general rule, the city pays for the wrongdoing of its officers. The police officer is held personally liable, as some reformers call for. In practice, this may make it more difficult and even impossible for a victim to collect their compensation. The officers who killed Mr. Garner or who wronged Mr. Cummins likely do not have sufficient wealth to adequately compensate their victim. While a strong argument can be made for the offending officer to make some contribution to the award, without the city being on the hook, they will not change the hiring and training of its officers, which means that systemic change will not come. If I had to estimate, I would expect Mr. Cummins to receive six figures in this case, approximately $150,000 to $400,000. Mr. Cummins later said, "I may have mental problems, but I'm not crazy. I didn't run. I would have been crazy to run." He's right. If you find yourself in a situation where you're the victim of false arrest, don't do anything crazy. Comply with the officers, exercise your right to remain silent, and then get a lawyer to sue the pants off them afterward. If you're in New York State and believe your civil rights have been violated by the police, you can contact us at 833-SUE-NYPD. That's 833-783-6973. And remember, you don't pay a dime unless we win the case for you. And if this is your first time on my channel, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for more videos about protecting yourself from the police and holding them accountable when they abuse their power. I make this content to help you understand your rights and learn to exercise them when it matters most. So click here to watch this video next, and I'll see you there.